When it comes to abortion care, you deserve support that's compassionate and judgment-free. Cathren is here to offer exactly that. Whether you prefer in-clinic or at-home abortion care, aka when pills get shipped to you, Cathren provides safe, convenient options that put your health, preferences, and well-being first. They make the process simple, discreet, and empowering, because you should feel confident in the process and your choices. Visit cathren.org to learn more about your options and take control of your reproductive health today. Yes, you deserve great abortion care. Hey Sex Ed with DB listeners, DB here, and I need your help to make this podcast exactly what you want. We've put together a quick listener survey to find out what matters most to you, so we can cover the topics that you care about, find sponsors that match your interests, and create a podcast experience that's perfect for you. Plus, as a thank you, you could win a $100 gift card from Lion's Den. Your email is optional, so you can stay anonymous if you'd like. Just hit the link in the show notes and help us make Sex Ed with DB the best it can be for you.
Even if you're a star athlete and you're playing for the Clippers, like, you still gotta respect your girl.
Respect your girl.
And he didn't.
Hey everybody, welcome to Rom Com Vom, a Sex Ed with DB podcast miniseries exploring popular rom-coms from the 90s and early aughts that gave us toxic messages about love and sex. Hello, Sex Ed with DB listeners. Welcome back to another week of Rom Com Vom, your favorite new miniseries, by us, of course. This week, we are joined by the lovely Mariah Caudillo, sex educator behind Sex Ed Files. Welcome, Mariah.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. This is my second time here.
I was going to say, you have been on this podcast multiple times. I mean, we also did Curious Sex Ed together.
We did.
Which was like a whole mini series that we did then. How could we forget about that?
I know. That was amazing. That was a really good experience. That was my first, actually, going on this podcast, my first time, I think was one of my first podcast experiences.
Oh my God.
And I still feel very new. I loved it. It was really great. I feel like you're very organized.
Oh, thank you, Mariah. Speaking to my type A heart. And before we begin, a quick thank you to our sponsor for this episode, Cathren. I've worked with Cathren for years now, and I absolutely love their approach to shame-free abortion care. They recently did a campaign in Times Square, and the word abortion was everywhere in Times Square in New York City, which was fucking epic, iconic. And I just really recommend that you, beautiful listener, check out the link in the episode description to see the TikTok about their Times Square campaign to learn more about Cathren. We'll make sure that's included in the show notes, but wanted to shout them out right quick. Listen, folks, last week's teaser was this. Let's see if you can figure it out or if you have figured it out. Two childhood friends both aspire to be professional basketball players. The boy's father plays for the LA Clippers and is a natural talent and a born leader. The girl is ferociously competitive, but sometimes becomes overly emotional on the court. Boo, hate this description. Over the years, the two begin to fall for each other, but their separate paths to basketball stardom threaten to pull them apart. Drum roll. We're talking about love and basketball today.
Love and basketball.
Love and basketball.
Did you write that description or was
I did not. I stole it from the internet. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did not write that. I feel like the overly emotional thing is just like a classic thing. Just like women are too emotional in sports, which we definitely will get into. But this is a love story about hoops and heart. There's so much here. Our first, segment here is as a teen, and I just want to know, like, any of your personal experiences with this when you first watched it? Like when did you see it? What did you feel when you watched it, if you can remember? And like, what did you love about it?
Yeah, I think when I first watched it, I was an older teen, like maybe 19. Because if you've listened to our other episodes together, I grew up religious. Yes. I wasn't allowed to watch anything that wasn't G-rated, like literally.
Oh, wow. Children's movies only.
Children's movies only. So this, I got to watch as an older teen. But even then, you know, I had a very limited worldview because of my upbringing. And I think I really focused in on the relationship side of things. And I think I aspired to have that kind of relationship. I don't think I saw any red flags with it initially, which is, you know, that's not great. But the second time around, to me, it was so much more about the relationship with yourself, with Monica's relationship with herself.
Yes.
Her like balancing act, and also really honoring her boundaries throughout the entire thing, even when she's young in the beginning. Like, she knows who she is. Yeah. She knows what she wants. And that was the first thing that stood out to me in this rewatch, because I think in the first time around, I really latched on to the love part of the thing.
Love and basketball, yeah.
Yeah. I just really saw it as just the relationship between Monica and Quincy versus Monica and herself.
Yes. Wow. That is a great call out. Yeah. I feel similarly. I don't think I watched, this movie came out in the year 2000. So we were 7 and 8 years old respectively when it came out. So maybe a little too young for us then. It is like a pretty sexual movie. There's a lot of making out. There's a lot, you know, there's sex depicted. So I don't know if it would have been appropriate at that time for me to consume that, but nevertheless, I think I was like in my early 20s when I first watched this. And I remember like really liking it then, just because I played basketball from like 3rd through 12th grade. I was a baller myself. I wasn't good, but I did ball. I did in fact ball. And so I think when I first watched it, it was like more of the basketball that I was maybe focusing on.
Yeah.
But this most recent rewatch, we said this before we started hitting record, but like, I loved this movie. Like, I really I think that it's so good. I mean, it also is produced by the Spike Lee, who is just like absolutely iconic. And, you know, it has an all black cast. I think that it really did kind of break the bounds at the time for like a black casted rom-com. And it's not even like maybe it's more of like a rom kind of sports. It's more in the vein of like Challengers, I would say, than like a romantic comedy. There are kind of funny elements and there are like cute things in it, but I would say it's more of like a romance sport movie.
Yeah, I agree.
But I just really liked a lot about it. I do think that like the fact that this focuses on Monica, like my husband came in the room when I was watching it and he was like, "Oh, is this about her?" And I was like, no, it's about their love story. And then you come to realize it is actually about her.
It is about her. Yeah.
It's like she is in the driver's seat here. And it's like very much a realistic portrayal, I feel like, of a young person relationship. And
totally.
Yeah, there's just so much good in here that we're going to talk about and unpack. And like, yeah, there were some red flags and some things that were not so healthy, but I do think that they were like accurate, or just like it was it felt real. Like it felt like not this like over exaggerated character that's just like actually offensive. It was like, oh, like these are flawed people that make sense. And so yeah, I would love to set up, let's set up the film for folks who haven't seen it, or it's been a while. You know, so Love and Basketball tells the story of Monica and Quincy, two childhood friends who share a love for basketball and eventually do fall in love. Spoiler alert. Their relationship faces struggles as they both pursue basketball careers, leading to a classic "play me for your heart" moment. Oh, I love this part.
Yeah, that last scene.
Oh my goodness. Also, this cast is iconic. Like it's
an incredible cast.
Unreal. And like the side characters are like Tyra Banks and Gabrielle Union. And you're just like, oh my gosh, they're in their moments right now in the year 2000.
I was taking notes when I watched it, and one of my notes was like, oh, I forgot Tyra Banks was in this. Like,
yeah.
That's cool.
I mean, I feel like Life Size, that movie with her and Lindsay Lohan came out like around that time.
Amazing. I love that movie. I need to rewatch that.
Honestly, same. I feel like that should go on our list.
Oh my God.
So you might be wondering, like, why are we talking about this, right? And I think Love and Basketball gave us a really iconic love story that was wrapped up kind of in sports rivalry and gender dynamics. But beneath this sweet, like, play me for your heart moment, there are a few deeper issues and, around gender roles, career, like, versus love, and having to tell your partner to choose, and some toxic masculinity. So we're going to be kind of moving forward into our That's Problematic segment, where we're just going to break down all of these elements. And so the first one is gender roles in sports. Like, Mariah, what do you think? Like, how do you feel like this film portrays women and men differently in this basketball context?
Yeah, well, I think at the time, the WNBA wasn't even a thing yet, or it just happened, or they just organized it. I don't know basketball history very well, but I think this still rings true today. Women athletes, female athletes have a much more difficult time than male athletes, but particularly at this time, the rewards were
1996. I just Googled it. That's when right after this, exactly like during this moment. It's like within the first 5 years of the WNBA. The first season began in 97.
Wow. Okay. So there you go. So with that said, it's like we see how easy it was for Quincy to become this star athlete and be very well respected without having to work so hard. And I think that was one of the main issues, is he did not understand, nor did he respect Monica's dedication and ambition for the sport that she really, really loves, but also has to work twice as hard at in order to just simply play college basketball, really, because at that time, the end goal was you finish college basketball and then you can choose to go international, to go play somewhere else. And that is what she ended up doing. At the very end, we see more of the WNBA beginnings of that. But yeah, I think the through line throughout is we just see the differences between being a female athlete and being a male athlete. Monica has to work extra hard and has to really, really dedicate her time just to get to the place Quincy's at, where it's just so easy for him. Even in the basketball scenes, you just see she's so focused, and it's very intimate, her basketball scenes. I loved that we get to see what's in her head from her perspective. They show her on the court moving and her talking to herself. And then Quincy is just like so sloppy.
Right.
He's all over the place. But he's celebrated so easily.
Totally.
So that was a through line for me, I think. And also just very, what's the word I'm looking for? Reflective of the times. And like I said, what it is to be a female athlete.
And it almost even felt like progressive, right? Like you're saying this about like the WNBA kind of just getting started during this time. And I do think we see this, right? Like with how Monica is treated when she gets emotional, quote unquote, right? Like
right.
There are so many moments here where it's okay for, I guess we don't really see Quincy like breaking down on the court or getting frustrated. That's not really like, it's not a comparison, but it is made very clear to the viewer that like Monica is being admonished. She's being punished for the way that she gets emotional. And I do think like it's interesting because I think it's true. Like I do think that still today in 2024, nearly 25 years later, this is still happening for women athletes. Like the video of Serena Williams kind of breaking her racket went viral when the ref or whoever was kind of like, oh, that's a mark. I don't know tennis terms, but like that basically like you're in trouble for doing that.
Right.
Like the equivalent of a yellow card. I don't know what it is. If you want to educate me, listeners, please let us know. But the point is that like women get in trouble for showing their emotions, while we see these videos of male athletes screaming, breaking shit, like, you know, getting red cards. I think, like, you know, we're treated differently. And I think that she, you know, ultimately her championship game in high school, like, because she gets emotional, there's this idea that, like, it's her fault because she fouled.
Right.
And she can't keep it together. And so I think that it is a true, you know, we're going to keep talking about how much we love this movie because we really liked it. But, like, I felt very seen, like, in those moments of feeling like when I have played sports and when I really wanted something and, like, couldn't get there, or, like, got very emotional or fouled out of the game, like, I definitely did feel emotional. And I don't think that is weakness. It just feels like that is part of it, is part of the experience. Calling all aspiring sexual health professionals. This one is for you. If this isn't you, feel free to skip this ad. Okay, now that I'm talking to the real ones who want to make sexual health your full-time gig, I thought I'd share an exclusive offer for Sex Ed with DB listeners for my workshop, Building a Profitable Online Sexual Health Brand. In this workshop, you'll learn how to cultivate your sexual health brand, how to make relationships with other brands and sponsors in the space, and how to make a real living as a sexual health expert on the internet. And don't just take it from me. Here's a quote from the sex ed princess, Jill Listener, who took my workshop this past year. This workshop series was beyond what I thought it would be. I came out having gained 5,000 new followers on Instagram in less than 2 weeks. And I learned what really works in the content creation world in our sexual health space. I also gained confidence. Are you ready to get started? Email me at sexedwithdb@gmail.com and share that you listened to this ad. Let's do this. Let's read a real review from a patient who got an abortion at Cathren. I loved that Cathren was with me the whole way through this process, which was very difficult to deal with on my own. They sent a beautiful care package, and you can tell they truly care about you and your well-being. Cathren provides easy, expert, and accessible abortion care in 16 U.S. states. Yes, you deserve great abortion care. Visit cathren.org now to learn more.
Emotions are totally a part of the experience. Yeah, that was a huge theme, I think. And also the fact that people don't really value women's sports. I think with basketball in particular, people just started. Well, I know that there have been people who've paid attention and really invested in it. But I think more recently, like, it's gone viral on TikTok because of the players. They're incredible. And people are like, wow, women's basketball is fucking awesome. They're so good. And, you know, that why aren't more people at their games? Why? I don't know. So there's so many themes happening here. But ultimately, all of these little things are why their relationship did not work for a long time, why they were on and off, and what really drove them apart.
Totally. Yeah, we're going to get into that next, actually. So, like, there is this idea around, like, we know that Quincy and Monica are both, like, passionate about basketball. And even when they're, you know, we see the movie is set up, if you haven't seen it, listener, in like 4 quarters. Like, the first quarter is like them as little kids. They like they live next door to each other. And then the next quarter is them in high school. Then we see them in college, and then we see them post college. And so I think, like, from the get, we realize that Monica is obsessed with Magic Johnson, and she wants to be the first woman in the NBA. Like, that's her goal. Like, and Quincy even says, like, I've never met anyone, let alone like a boy, just anyone who wants to be in the NBA as bad as you do. And so clearly we know where her head is at. And so in terms of this idea of balancing career and love, you know, we see this scene when they're in college, and Quincy just finds out that his dad has been cheating on his mom, and he's very upset. And Monica is chatting with him, making him feel better on the bleachers. And she looks at the clock and goes, oh shit, like, my curfew is about to happen. I have to go. And she feels bad about it. It's not like she's like shoving it in his face or anything. She's sad that she has to leave. She doesn't want to get in trouble. And he's like, can you just stay? Like, I kind of need you. And you can see that he's in pain, but at the same time, she's like, I love you, but like, I gotta, I have to do what I'm here to do, which is to play basketball. And so, and we kind of see him punish her with the most insane thing, which is he goes on a date with someone else while they're like in front of her. Like, I'm sorry, what? Like, he clearly punishes her. And so I'm wondering how you feel about like the fact that, do you think that this movie is sending kind of conflicting messages about pursuing your passion versus choosing love? Or what do you think we're learning here?
Well, I think maybe that could be what someone might take from it. But I also think it's more so about Monica figuring out how to do it all. And the fact that you can do it all, like you can have all of these things and still pursue your dreams. And throughout the movie, she's challenged with these gender stereotypes or these gender roles. Also, like the messages she's receiving from her family. We didn't even talk about their childhood yet, but that was a whole other thing. Is like Quincy from the get-go is told like, you're going to be a basketball star. Like you're amazing. He has this very like alpha male dad, and Monica is just not supported at all. It's like, you're being
her mom doesn't come to any of her games. Like,
oh my gosh. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's more what I see it as, is like Monica is challenged and has to, or thinks that she has to sacrifice all these parts of herself in order to play basketball, in order to do the things she really, really loves. But in the end, and what is so beautiful is like, she figures it out without having to sacrifice any part of herself.
And they have a baby.
Yeah, that's cute.
So cute. Yeah, and like she is in the WNBA in the end. And it is about her. It's about her growth. It's about her passion. And I think you're right. Like, again, we love this film. It's hard for us to rag on it. But I do think like the shitty part is like how she is treated by Quincy when he is going through pain. And like, I do think, again, like maybe not dating someone in front of your partner is realistic. That seemed insane to me, that he was like, I'm going out on a date with this person. And she was like, okay, bye. Like, I loved how she's just
being an asshole. It's like,
he's like flirting with someone at a party, and she's like, go home, you're drunk. Like, like, we are Monica. Like, I just feel seen in her character.
He doesn't deserve her. That's how, I mean, like, I know they end up together and that's so sweet, but I really am like, you did not support her at all throughout her whole basketball career is what I felt, is like, even from the beginning when she shows up and they're kids, he's like, he pushes her. He literally physically assaults her because he's mad, or I don't know if he's mad, but he's maybe,
and she has a scar on
feels
her face
a certain way
from that.
Oh gosh, I hope everyone watches this.
It's so good. Also,
or during. I
know.
Now's your chance.
Now's your chance. Pause this episode, go watch it, and come back and re-listen.
Put it on 2 times speed, because it's 2 hours.
It's a nice long movie, but yeah, I don't know. I think that Quincy, though, he doesn't really say sorry to her, but like before the ending, he does say like, listen, I was going through a really hard time and I couldn't trust anybody. And so I do think like that is an acknowledgement. His apology could have been better, but I do think it was an acknowledgement of like, I was 20. I was really like not in a good place after I found out that my dad was cheating on my mom. And yeah, now let's move on to that. The third thing here is toxic masculinity, which is exactly what you're describing, right?
Right. Like, why does it take a man, a guy, a boy, whatever, so long to figure out how to respect women? I'm sorry.
Oh my God. Can that just be
I know you
quote
were 20,
of the century?
But like, it's not hard. I mean, she was putting so much effort into like, she had to juggle all these things, and he didn't think twice about it. He was like, me.
Totally. Yeah, I think like I'm sure that, this idea of the pressure that was put on him from a young age from his dad,
Totally.
like I'm sure he never like articulates that, but we can kind of maybe feel it despite his like cool guy attitude. And so I think like what we're getting at here is Quincy's emotional unavailability as well as toxic masculinity and his really reliance on like traditional quote unquote masculinity. And I think like it really does impact their relationship. I think like the fact that she doesn't go after him, like after the whole like college incident, it's just clear that, she then ends up in Spain and she is competing. And then when we find out that his leg or his ACL tears, and like this is a few years later, presumably they're like 24 or something like that. And she visits him in the hospital and he says to her, I called you a few times. She's like, yeah, like I didn't call you back, basically. So like, I do think that there is, and then like, there's the whole thing with the dad, right? So like, do you want to talk through anything that came up for you, like when we were kind of seeing like how it impacted his mom and then his mom gets a new partner? Like there's a lot that happens with their family dynamic.
Totally. I think it all stems from he adores his dad. He wants to be just like his dad from the beginning as a child. That's all he talks about. Like he wants to be his dad. He wants to play basketball like his dad. And his dad isn't a great person, in my opinion. Like he's, and the things that he communicates to Quincy is like, you get shit done. Like the classic toxic masculinity kind of pathway is what Quincy is put on from a young age. And that includes things like suppressing your emotions and not treating girls very well. And I think about in the beginning, Quincy and Monica, when they first meet their neighbors, their kids, they play basketball. He pushes her. She gets the scar on her face. And like, she has to get ready for the first day of school. She comes out. She has a bandage on her face. And he's like, so you want to be my girlfriend? And she's like, okay, I guess. Because they were like 10, 11. I don't even know.
Yeah.
But what was so like poignant, I guess, at that moment is already at that age, he's taking what he's learned from his dad in relationships and directly applying it to this girlfriend boyfriend situation. He already has very obvious expectations of what relationships are supposed to look like. And that includes the man being in control and being the one who kind of drives everything. He says like, because you're my girl now, you have to do this. Or
you have to ride on my bike.
Yeah, you have to ride on my bike. My dad does this.
Right.
Yeah. He's like, my dad does this for my mom, so you have to now too. And it's amazing as Monica literally already has boundaries. So she's like, I don't want to. Yeah.
Yeah. No. She's like, I want to ride my own bike, obviously.
Obviously.
And then he's so mean to her and calls her an ugly dog.
I know. I was shook. I was like, oh shit.
She's like, you're a dog.
That's so rude.
I kind of love though that she like says fuck you back. Like I think I'm sure that like, yes, of course, like he shouldn't bully her. That's like very important to name. And like she doesn't let that shit get her down. Like I just think that like we shouldn't have to deal with this shit. And at the same time, it's that much more impressive and awe-inspiring when someone can achieve their dreams despite the toxicity of others.
Totally.
Yeah. But I kind of love the fact that Quincy's mom really stands up for herself. And we kind of get a hint at their toxic relationship because they're like making out in front of him and then they're screaming and he has to go across the street to sleep over her house because Quincy, because he's like, I can't deal with this yelling. And then we learn that like, and I don't know, like I really felt for his dad, even though like we're kind of made to root against him when he says the truth to Quincy, which is like, listen, when you are on the road, like 100 people are lining up, 10 people make it past security and one person's at your door. Like at some point it just becomes a part of the game. And I think that like that is really what happens to celebrities and people who have like this huge ego and people who just feel like I'm wanted by all. I'm a god. The rules don't apply to me. And
yeah,
I feel very sad that like we learn in the hospital when he's visiting when his dad is visiting Quincy after his torn ACL, when he hasn't seen him in 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like the last time that he saw him was when he told him off, basically, when, you know, he basically says that speech about it being part of the game. So like clearly Quincy does not idolize him. But yeah, I think overall, like we said, I love this movie. We typically every episode have a cringe corner where we share like our most outrageous moment or line, and we give out an award that's a reference to the movie Never Been Kissed, called the Yikes Bikes Award.
Oh my
gosh. Part of me feels like, I don't know, like I don't even want to give an award out here, because I just feel like this movie is a very different like rom-com / like romance sport movie than I've ever seen. And so I'm going to refrain from giving mine out, but if you have one, I want you to say it.
I don't know if there was like just Quincy's behavior.
Yeah, just him being like, a dick.
You were embarrassing. But yeah, there really there weren't a lot of yikes moments in my opinion.
Yeah.
But the way that there was like not a lot of sex in this movie was very interesting. Like it's about, you know, there's like, we're seeing a relationship. There's not a ton of those moments. And in a way, it's like when they're playing basketball in the end, like that is so sexual. And also when they were playing in the dorm room.
Yes.
They're like playing against each other.
I love that scene.
Yeah. That also felt very, sexual, like that. So there's, I don't know, like that's their
connection. Totally.
Yeah.
Yes. In the same vein, we usually rate the movie 1 to 5 voms. 1 being it's dated but mostly harmless. 5, it's like huge mega yikes, would not recommend. I'm giving this a 0. I think like it's not. It just like has shitty character moments and like it's not great. But I think overall, I loved it.
Yeah, I totally give this a 0 on that scale. The what is it? Vom
scale. Yeah.
On the vom scale, 0. No voms, no vomits. I are not enjoyed it. Yeah.
We're not throwing up here. Things are good. Yeah, I think like in terms of like our final thoughts here, this did have a really big impact on movies. It, like you said, impacted the way that Black people saw themselves on screen. It impacted the way that women were taught that like they can, you know, achieve their dreams and also be emotional, like flawed people, and also like have the dream where they get to the WNBA at the end where their husband and child are on the sidelines rooting for them. Like this really is like a feel good romance movie where like it's sexy, they have chemistry, like there's, you know, consent, they show like a condom being put on, like there's so many good pieces to this movie. And I really do think like how it was an all Black cast and it was produced by Spike Lee, like this was a very big deal at the time, and I think like continues to be one of the best sports love movies of all time, for sure. But yeah, Mariah, I'm so glad that you were here to talk about this movie that now has become both of our, you know, one of our favorite movies. So it's very fun.
Yeah.
And Sex Ed with DB listeners, here is the teaser now for next week. Here we go. A baby-faced junior copywriter at the Chicago Sun-Times must pose as a student at her former high school to research contemporary teenage culture. With the help of her brother, she infiltrates the inner circle of the most popular clique on campus, but she hits a major snag in her investigation, not to mention her own failed love life, when she falls for her very hot English teacher. Mariah, you rock. Thank you so much for being here. This was so much fun.
Of course. All's fair in love and basketball.
All's fair in love and basketball, indeed.